On the 14th of September 2007, Andrew Gosden, who was only 14 years old at the time, took a train from his hometown in Doncaster and went to Kings Cross in London. The last photo of him was as he came out of Kings Cross railway station. Since then, there has been no sighting of Andrew. Nobody knows what happened to him after that. Is he still alive? Did he run away? Did he meet someone? Was he groomed by someone? 17 long years for Andrew's family have passed, and still nobody knows what happened to Andrew Gosden. Let's chat. He bought a one-way. Don't know what happened to Andrew, about the circumstances surrounding Andrew's disappearance, and that is the disappearance of Liam Smith, who was 16 when he disappeared from the Queen's Road area of Aberdeen in Scotland. Now, we know what happened to Liam Smith. Some of you may remember that case. I'm going to talk about it after we've heard about the case of Andrew, first of all. So yeah, first of all, we're going to talk about Andrew. Now, Andrew's circumstances up to when he disappeared are not exactly odd, but there are some things that do stand out. So Andrew Gosden lived in Doncaster in South Yorkshire. Let's have a little look at Doncaster. For those of you who don't know the UK very well, so this is in the United Kingdom. And the reason I'm doing this video today is a video that I've been meaning to make. The case of Andrew Gosden, the disappearance of Andrew Gosden, is one of the most famous missing persons cases, not only in the UK, but also all over the world, because the mystery of it, the complete mystery of it, what happened to it, because as we know, people don't just disappear into thin air. Something happened to Andrew, and he may have come to foul play, or he may have just decided he didn't want to, live the life he was living anymore. He may have just decided there may have been nobody else involved. May have just decided he was going off to London for the day. Though he did not buy a return ticket, he bought a one-way ticket. And then something may have happened to him while he was in London. He may have been groomed, of course, and lured to London. Or he may have done a similar thing to what Liam did. And in which case, will he ever be found? But anyway, so as I say, we're going to look at all these, we're going to think about all these different possibilities. But first of all, we're going to look at the circumstances up to the day he disappeared, which, as I say, was exactly 17 years ago today, the 17th of September. Okay, let's have a look at Doncaster. For those of you who don't know where Doncaster is, it is in Yorkshire, in the UK. So we can see, if we look at it in context with Manchester, that's a big city you may have heard of, Sheffield, Liverpool, etc. Doncaster is here, not far from Leeds, of course. Now, bear in mind that he went all the way on the train to London. So some distance. That would have took quite a few hours to get from Doncaster to London. And he was supposed to be at school. So the strange thing that happened was he did get ready to go to school. We're going to listen to a podcast where his father speaks, and the whole circumstances of what happened that day will be revealed. But I'm just going to give you a quick sort of synopsis of what happened. But basically, it seems that he got up for school that morning as normal. His mum did say he was a little, if any, he was a little bit more irritable maybe than normal. But we all know what teenage boys or girls, or even us, are like in the morning. So apparently he was quite irritable. But whether it was more irritable than normal is not really clear, is it? How do you tell? Anyway, prior to his disappearance, he'd not been to church for 18 months, which was quite significant because his parents are both committed Anglican Christians. So church was a big thing for them. You know, he was in the Scouts, etc. But he'd decide, you know, up to, you know, the thing is, you know, when kids get to teens, sort of those kind of things, you know, they start to rebel a little bit, don't they, against things, and things they may have liked doing when they were 12, they wouldn't necessarily want to do when they're 14. So he'd been a Cub Scout, but a few months before he said he didn't want to do that anymore. His family described him as a home bird who rarely left the house without saying where he was going. And he had what will be significant, one of the things I'm going to tell you about in a moment, his nickname was Roo. He was also a gifted student. He had a 100% attendance record. He was more or less a genius as far as mathematics were concerned. And he was, you know, tipped to go to Cambridge. So, you know, he apparently didn't talk much about his school life to his parents. And he wasn't, you know, he had a neutral attitude about school, or he was described as having a neutral attitude about school. He was described as being happy with his own company, but not necessarily a loner. He had friends. But apparently, strangely, he did not socialize with his friends outside of school. He had no signs of depression, and there were no indications that he'd been subjected to bullying at school. His father described him as a deep character, did not get worked up, was not moody. His teachers described him as shy, quiet, mature beyond his years. Now, I think we can see from the photo of Andrew, he looks quite young, doesn't he, for 14? And they did say that. They said he wasn't an older looking 14-year-old. You know, some 14-year-olds look like men, don't they? You know, some 14-year-old boys already look like men. Andrew was not one of them. He was small for his age, you know, because everybody grows at different rates, don't they? Some, you know, my son was tall from being sort of 5, really, noticeably taller than his classmates. But other children catch up, you know, later on, but they just don't start growing. So, you know, until maybe they hit puberty or whatever, and then suddenly they have these massive growth spurts, you know, or maybe he was always destined to be on the short side. You know, everybody's different, aren't they? Everybody grows at different rates, etc. So he was interested in video games. He liked heavy metal bands. He had a phone, but he wasn't big, he wasn't big on using the phone. He took the phone with him when he went on the train, but he left the charger at home. This to me suggests that maybe, well, either he wasn't coming back, but even if he wasn't coming back, you'd still want your phone charger, wouldn't you? So that could either be that he was planning on coming back and something happened to him in London that meant that he couldn't go back, or maybe he was planning, on doing something untoward to himself, which is what happened with Liam Smith. Now, having said that, Andrew, no trace of Andrew has ever been found, so there's no evidence to suggest that he did anything to himself whatsoever. What else have we got to say about? So he was last seen wearing a black slip-knot t-shirt, black jeans, trainers, a watch on his left wrist, and carrying a black canvas satchel with patches of rock and metal bands on it. So he was only 8 days into the new school year. So they'd just gone back to school after returning from summer holidays. As I say, it's exactly 17 years ago. So this will be what will be going on with so many children right now. 14th of September. Now, there are two. This to me, it was a little bit strange that his parents said that he had started walking home from school rather than taking the bus. And it's 4 miles, the walk home from school. So that would have taken him 1 hour and 20 minutes. That surprised me because my experience with teenage boys, they want to do the quickest thing, not take the longest time to get home, but do the quickest way of getting home. So that's quite odd, isn't it? I don't know if that means anything. Why did he suddenly decide walking home from school rather than taking the school bus? Anyway, apparently the evening before he disappeared, his father described it as uneventful. They ate dinner together, they washed the dishes all together, they played on the computer, they watched some comedy programs on television, etc. Then, as I say, on the actual day of his disappearance, according to his mother, he was more irritable than usual. And she said this was unusual because he was normally awake on time, no problem getting him ready for school. Gosh, I wish I could say the same about my son when he was 14. It was a trauma every day. Anyway, he was actually seen leaving his house and witnessed walking across the local park and to his usual bus stop by a family friend who was sitting on a bench in the park. But however, instead of taking the school bus, Andrew diverted from his usual route. He walked to a cash machine at a local garage and he withdrew £200 from his bank account. And he was captured on his neighbour's CCTV system as he came home. So we know that he did do that because we have CCTV of that. Apparently then when he got home, I presume his parents had gone out to work, he placed his uniform in the washing machine and the blazer on the back of the chair. He changed into casual clothes that I described earlier. And he took his wallet, his keys, and a PlayStation portable console. He did not take his passport with him. He did not take a sweatshirt or a coat with him. It must have been a warmish day. And he also did not take the charger for his PSP. He left around £100 in cash that he had saved from his birthdays. So it seems like although he went and took out £200 in cash, he left behind £100 in cash. So that feels like maybe he was planning to come home, doesn't it? Was he planning to come home, and did he just decide to have a day out in London and then something happened? Anyway, well, we know what Kings Cross is like for a start. Kings Cross, of course, is a notorious railway station. For anyone who doesn't know, there's a lot of SEX workers, young boys hang around Kings Cross, don't they? Apparently, I've never been to Kings Cross, so I don't know, but that's what was always said about it. So did he get into trouble like when he got to Kings Cross, or was he meeting somebody? We're going to have a look at the last CCTV picture of him, and you tell me what you think. But I always felt, ever since I saw that picture, maybe he was looking out for somebody, like looking around to, expecting to meet someone. But I don't know. I'm just a feeling that I had. Anyway, left the house at 8:30. He was seen heading down Littlemore Lane towards Westfield Park on a neighbour's CCTV. He walked to Doncaster railway station. He purchased a one-way ticket to London, which was £31.40. Oh my God, that was a different era, wasn't it? It cost you about £130 now, probably. Anyway, the ticket seller recalled him, and she told him that a return ticket was only 50p more, but he said no, he would just take a single ticket. So then, this is what's so difficult about this case, so many contrary things. So although like what he left behind him suggests that he was planning on going back, because didn't take his charger, he left money there that he could have taken with him, etc. He didn't take any change of clothes or anything, but not getting a return ticket. Why not paying that extra 50p for a return ticket and insisting on a single ticket? So mysterious. Anyway, at 9:35 he was seen boarding the train alone. A woman reported sitting next to him, and she described he said that he was quiet, he was engrossed in his video game, and then when he didn't turn up at school, his teachers tried to contact his parents. Now, the school believed that they had called Andrew's parents and left a message saying that he hadn't attended school. But it seems that they called the wrong number, and they called the number of the parents either above or below him in the, in the logbook of parents' phone numbers. And the message was left on the wrong person's phone, apparently. Anyway, Andrew arrived at Kings Cross Station at 11:20 a.m. Very quick, that, only 2 hours. Seems... Sorry, I mean, just to go from Doncaster to London must be a through train, I suppose. My God, it must be an express. Anyway, he was captured on CCTV leaving the main entrance of the station at 11:25 a.m. and this is the last confirmed sighting of him. So let's just have a look at that very last picture. So this is it, the last known picture of him. Now, I don't know why, I just felt that as he came out, is he looking out for somebody there? Is he? Was he going there to meet someone? Or was he going there for a day out and he was planning on going back even though he hadn't bought a return ticket? Or was he going there to do something else? Was he intending to do something to himself and he didn't want to do it locally? This is what happened with Liam Smith, really. Liam Smith left his home, got on a bus and went somewhere else to do whatever it was he decided to do, for whatever reason he decided to do it. So this is the last known photo, the last confirmed sighting of Andrew Gosden 17 years ago on that fateful morning when he disappeared into thin air. Now, there's a lot of criticism, we'll hear that in the podcast we're going to listen to, a lot of criticism about the police because they did not check surrounding CCTV, etc. So obviously from there he went somewhere else. Even if he ended up doing something to himself, you know, he must have got on a bus or he hadn't done it right in the middle of the street in King's Cross. So he's gone somewhere either on his own or with someone. But the police did not, for whatever reason, did not follow up on that. So that evening, of course, then the family did not know that Andrew had disappeared because they hadn't had the message from school. And they sat down to dinner thinking that he was either in his bedroom doing his homework or he was in there. They had a converted cellar and they thought he was down there playing video games. The Gosden family and a family friend. So when they realised he was not in the house, probably when they called him for dinner or whatever, or suddenly thought, well, where's Andrew? Why has he not come down to say hello? They thought he must be with a friend or a neighbour and he must have lost track of time. That always seems a little bit strange to me, because if he was a person who never really went out, why would you even think that? So they phoned his friends who told him that he wasn't with them, he'd not been at school all day, and then at 7 p.m. the police were called. Andrew's sister Charlotte said it was just a complete panic. We initially thought something must have happened on the way to school, and then when we found out they hadn't even been to school, it was even more worrying. So the family themselves searched locally, and within 3 hours of him missing, a missing person leaflet was produced for circulation. That's quite soon, isn't it? Andrew's family and friends searched the area till nightfall, and that weekend the police searched the bushes near Andrew's home but found nothing. So as investigations developed, that's how they found out, that he'd gone to London, bought a train ticket and gone to London. And the ticket seller particularly remembered him because he had refused a return ticket, despite it only costing 50p more. Now, his father later said he didn't think that was strange, as he did know many people in London with whom he could have stayed. So did he go there to visit a family member or a friend of the family? Seems funny that he would have gone all the way to London just for nothing. Anyway, the family travelled to London, handed out flyers and posters. They especially checked out, because he liked museums, exhibitions, he was into music, there was a YouTube festival on, all those kind of things that they thought that Andrew might have been interested in. They went and checked out and distributed leaflets. So he was never picked out again on CCTV, in crowds. It was reviewed, the CCTV footage at King's Cross was reviewed. And then, of course, this photo that you should be able to see as I'm reading this out, this photo was a big thing, so they knew for certain that he had actually arrived at King's Cross. So they know it was him, they know that he was there. Anyway, so they investigate the possibility he might have been catfished. He might have gone there to visit someone he'd met over the internet, but there was no evidence for this. He didn't use a computer at home. His father said he didn't have an email address. The computers were taken from the school and nothing was found. So basically, with all those, they did many sort of digital investigations, and nothing came up. So, because the CCTV trail went cold, then it was decided to establish why had he decided to go to London. So there's many theories. Sightseeing, because he was known to have liked London. He would visit the capital with his family to see his grandparents, his aunts, uncles, family, friends, etc. He liked museums, he liked exhibitions. Travel on buses was free at the time for his age group. So, it was thought it was possible that might have been why he went, but I don't think that can be true, because why would he not contact his parents and let them know where he was and what he was doing? Would he have left his parents to worry like that? I don't think so. But anyway, everything's possible, I suppose. So, his father himself has speculated on the disappearance. Was there something troubling him that he didn't think he could tell them? That's it. Teenagers don't tell you everything, so you might think, oh yeah, he's okay and nothing's going on, but there could have been a lot going on, that they didn't know about. Anyway, and in the beginning, of course, there was a lot of speculation from the police, as if Andrew's own family were involved, and that is just typical. His father, Kevin, insisted that the police viewed him as a suspect in the initial stages, and also that they unlawfully recorded interviews and tried to pressure him into saying what had happened to Andrew. So, there's a lot of criticism from the family to the police. Now, there were a few possible sightings, 122 possible sightings reported all over Britain, including 45 from London and 11 from Brighton. And some of them seem credible because the witnesses said he'd spoken to them. And the Gosden family, Andrew's family themselves, believe, according to Wikipedia, which is where I'm reading a lot of these facts from, they believe that the most plausible sighting was the one that placed Andrew at the Pizza Hut on Oxford Street, 1 hour's walk from Kings Cross, on the day he went missing. And the family claim this was never followed up by the police. People said he was sleeping in a park. He was reportedly seen getting off a local train 5 days after he disappeared. In different clothes he was reported to have been seen. So there's sort of various possible sightings, but none, according to Andrew's father, they weren't followed up by the police, and none of them came to anything. Another strange thing happened then in November 2008. A man went to the police station in Herefordshire, West Midlands, in Leominster, and used the intercom system to talk to a police officer and said that they had information about Andrew Gosden. But by the time the officer actually arrived to take the details, the man had left. Now, unfortunately, it could be that this man genuinely had information, but people do interject themselves in cases. Unfortunately, it happens all the time, so who knows if this was genuine or not. And then the person claiming to be that man wrote anonymously to the BBC and gave details of a possible sighting of Andrew in Shrewsbury in November 2008. However, it's not been confirmed that this was even the same man on those both occasions, and if so, why he did not wait at the police station. There's been speculation that maybe Andrew, there's been speculation that maybe he was questioning his sexuality, that maybe he was gay and he didn't want to tell them, but his father sort of poo-pooed that and said that you know, we're a pretty open family, so we've wondered if he was gay or struggling with his sexual identity and found it too awkward to raise the subject. If he is gay, we don't have any issue with it. He's loved unconditionally by both my wife and I and his sister. Now, in May 2011, the family paid a private company. I don't know if it was, wonder which private company that was. I wonder if it was SGI, to conduct a sonar search of the River Thames using the same technology that is used to locate victims and objects at sea. No trace of Andrew was found during this search, but another body was found. I wonder who that was. I wonder who that body was. Does it say? No, it doesn't say it was. So some person found out what happened to their loved one, but unfortunately it was not Andrew. So since then, of course, every now and again the police have, his parents have made appeals, etc. And they're involved with the charity Missing People, who made Andrew the face of their Find Every Child campaign, and he's been featured on billboards and advertisements throughout the UK. Now, I know this case is known about all over the world, not only in the UK. So, on the 12th of September 2017, the police made a fresh appeal for information. And they seemed to, you know, the general feeling was that maybe they thought he was still alive. And apparently every year the police undertake annual checks on John Does in hospital. So, you know, if people turn up and they're not identified, the police do check. Then in 2018, his family said that someone had reported an online conversation with a person with the username Andy Roo. So remember that his nickname was Roo. And he claimed, this person, whoever it was, claimed their boyfriend had left them. They needed £200 to cover the rent. And the person that was on the other end of the line offered to send them money, but the user claimed they did not have a bank account as they had left home when they were 14. And this link was investigated by the police, but the person was never identified. Then, in July 2018, to mark what would have been Andrew's 25th birthday, or what is Andrew's 25th birthday, because we don't know any different, you know, we don't know that he's no longer with us, 2 age progression photographs were released by the family. And there's been quite a few age progression photos. But let's have a look at them. I personally don't like these age progression photos because I don't know. Do they look like the person? How do I suppose it gives you an idea of what they might look like now, but I don't know. So let's have a look. These are the age progression photos. So, of course, this is Andrew when he disappeared. Look, he's got this very distinctive ear. That's quite interesting, isn't it? So it'd be easy to identify, really, because it is quite distinctive, that ear shape. And these are the age progression photos that they've come up with. So, have you seen this boy or man? Do you know a man who looks like that, who could possibly be Andrew, who has a distinctive ear? You know, so they're quite, it's something to look out for, isn't it? Now, another interesting thing, which I didn't know actually until a little while ago, there have been arrests made in this case. So in December 2021, 2 men were arrested, aged 38 and 45, on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking. And the older man's arrest was also connected with possession of indecent images of children. So both men were released under investigation while inquiries continued. And these are believed to be the first and only, I think, arrests made in connection to the disappearance of Andrew. And then it was announced that numerous devices had been seized for forensic investigation. The police said it could take 6 months to a year to analyse these. And in January 2023, so just last year, well, it's coming up to 2 years ago now because we're in September, South Yorkshire Police said the men remained under investigation and that their devices were still under examination. Goodness me. Well, that's a long time, isn't it? However, in September 2023, so last September, it was reported that both the men had been released without charge and that they were not involved in Andrew's disappearance. So that must have been quite a disappointment for the family because maybe they thought that they would get somewhere, get some answers. It'll all be about getting answers for the family now, won't it? I mean, I think there's still every chance that Andrew is still alive, isn't there? I don't think it's, I don't think you would think 100% that Andrew is definitely not alive, but you just think, why has he not contacted his parents? Surely by now, you wouldn't know that his parents would be so worried about him. Why did he not contact his parents if he is still alive? But we don't know that he isn't. And I do think that's very important. So what we're going to do in a moment, let me just see. We're going to listen to the podcast. Now, this podcast is from the Missing podcast. So, he's been made the face of missing children. Let's just have a look if I can get the website up. Of course, he's not a child now, but he was a child then, of course. 14 years old. It's a very, very difficult age, isn't it? Because, of course, yes, they are, 14 is still a child, but a lot of 14-year-olds, they think, don't they, that they're not children, basically. We're all guilty of that when we're that age. So let's have a look at this. So this is the Missing People website. Andrew Gosden is right there up on the front page still. Age at disappearance 14, missing since 14th of September, from Doncaster, South Yorkshire. You've got the picture of him when he went missing. You've got the age advanced close-ups, and the picture of his ear is there somewhere. The distinctive shape, yeah. So there's Andrew when he disappeared. There's one of the age enhanced photos. There's a poster here. Oh, you've got to fill out that too. So, Andrew, we are here for you whenever you are ready. We can listen, talk to you what through help you need, pass a message for you. It just makes me cry. Because I just cannot imagine for the family how that feels to, for your son just to disappear one day and you don't know what's happened to them. I think it's heartbreaking. So we are here for you whenever you're ready. We can listen, we can talk you through what help you need, pass a message for you, and help you to be safe. Well, Andrew, if you are still alive and maybe watches YouTube, please get in touch with somebody. Talk to the missing people. If you don't feel you can talk to your family for whatever reason, get in touch with somebody and just let them know that you're okay. So very sad, isn't it, for the family? I think just can't imagine it. Can't be anything worse than not knowing what's happened to your loved one. Okay, so I think we'll listen to the podcast now. I'll put the podcast on, and while we're listening to the podcast, I'll put Andrew's photo up there. So this is the missing podcast. To give it credit, it's 31 minutes long. I may not comment much through it. It'd be good to just listen to it. I don't know if there's any new information in there, but it's interesting because you do hear Andrew's dad talking, getting an idea from him what they're going through. I think we can imagine, most of us who have got some empathy can imagine what they're going through, but we can't really, can we? We think we can.
And what trail of devastation is left behind them. In this episode, we tell the story of Andrew Gosden and how he walked out of his home one day and never returned. We ask what might have happened to him. We follow the clues to his disappearance. And we invite you, the listener, to tell us what you think as we look for the information that might solve this case.
Getting up every day forever and ever and ever, wondering about his existence it's an extended torture.
This is The Missing. Andrew Gosden. It's just gone 9 p.m. on the 14th of December 2007, and young Andrew Gosden, a 14-year-old schoolboy, is late for his tea. The story that unfolds from here has puzzled police and left a family bereft. It's the story of a boy who vanishes into thin air with no explanations, no reason, and no answers. It's a case which has captivated an online community who spend their days scouring the web for clues and theorizing over what might have happened. A case that everyone believes could be solved if the right person came forward. It's a case which is senseless, unfathomable, and illogical. And it's this lack of any logical reason which makes it all the more intriguing.
I'd been to do the shopping and we had a friend coming to share dinner with us. We were all busy chatting, catching up, how's your day, your week? While I was unpacking the shopping, we sorted out some dinner and then called Andrew. Now, normally he'd have been downstairs we have a converted basement. He'd have been down there with his Xbox, or he'd have been up in his room. So obviously we shouted, no reply came. We went, he's not heard us. So I think Charlotte went wandering around the house to figure out where he'd got to.
Andrew lived with his sister Charlotte, mum Glenys, and his dad Kevin, who's talking to us now in a terraced house in the Yorkshire town of Doncaster. This Friday evening was the end of a busy week for them all. A new school term had recently started, and it was the last golden days of summer before the leaves started to fall and outdoor coats became mandatory. Family dinner was a definite ritual in the Gosden household, but tonight's wouldn't go according to plan. Kevin carried on cooking the dinner and setting the table. There was no moment of panic, no sudden alarm. While Andrew was a pretty quiet kid, He was a 14-year-old boy nonetheless, not great at being punctual. He didn't have a mobile phone, and there was no reason for anyone to think anything other than he'd simply lost track of time.
We did the obvious things like ring friends, neighbours, just thinking, oh, he's a few doors up at his mates and they've started playing snooker and he's lost track of time.
By this point, it was way past dinner time. The remains of the cottage pie were going cold on the table. Andrew had been missing for at least a couple of hours. There was an increasing need to figure out where Andrew was and where he'd last been seen.
Then we sort of, gradually figured out that Andrew hadn't made it to school that day.
So where was Andrew? Where had he been all day? For Kevin, the fact that Andrew had missed school
immediately rang alarm bells. From there, I think we started doing things like trying the hospital in case there'd been an accident and he'd been admitted. But really, it was at that point that we thought something is really off here.
The realisation that someone you love might be missing can happen gradually. They're with friends, you think. They've lost track of time. They forgot to mention an appointment. But none of those theories made any sense now. Charlotte and Kevin left the house to search. They spent the next few hours looking in alleyways, snickets and fields. They retraced Andrew's route to school. There was no sign of him. By the time they returned home, Andrew still hadn't reappeared, and they had to do something which filled them with dread.
That point was when we picked up the phone and called the police.
Most missing people return home within the first 24 hours. But during that first call with a South Yorkshire police officer, the Gosdens were insistent that Andrew wasn't the type of boy to disappear for any length of time.
He'd never missed a day of school, every year or term or whatever it was. He came home with 100% attendance certificates.
Something had changed. Andrew was now missing overnight. He wasn't just late home, he was gone. In the early hours of the morning, on the 15th of September, the police arrived at the Gosden household and asked the family to think of anywhere that might hold a personal connection for Andrew. Kevin's first thought was the Yorkshire seaside town of Whitby. A 16th century abbey sits on the headland overlooking the harbour, and the town is infamously the inspiration for Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. Andrew had always loved the gothic steampunk scene, and the family had made the 2-hour drive to the coast many times. So it seemed at least possible he might have gone there. Friends of the family headed to the coast first thing the next day. They put up posters along Whitby's harbour front featuring an image of Andrew. The picture they'd chosen perfectly captured his floppy mop of brown hair, slightly awkward smile, glasses, even the distinct crease in his right ear, a mark he'd had since birth, and one which is often used to identify possible sightings. In every local shop or cafe, places they'd visited before with Andrew, they expected to find him browsing the magazines or sipping on a lemonade. They were sure he'd be there, completely unaware or unappreciative of the panic and turmoil going on back in Doncaster.
Concerns are growing for a 14-year-old boy from Doncaster who hasn't been seen since Friday. Andrew Gosden is described...
News appeals went out, describing a typical teenage boy who liked rock music and computer games. Andrew was described as a good student, with a small circle of friends and no history of running away. Word quickly spread. A handful of sightings were reported, but as the day wore on, Andrew was still missing. There was another place where Kevin believed Andrew might have gone. Doncaster is on one of the main train lines across England, from north to south, and fast trains regularly stop at Doncaster on their way to London.
Most of my family live in London, and from a very young age, obviously, we'd regularly visited and done museums and galleries and you name it, London dungeons to swords, whatever. I mean, it's purely an educated guess, if you like. You know, we just figured, well, where's he going to have gone on the basis of what he likes?
Police were told that London was a possibility. Inquiries were sent out to see if there was any sign of Andrew boarding a train. But detectives were already piecing together Andrew's movements. Door-to-door inquiries around his home address and the gathering of CCTV footage was prioritised to give the police a starting point, a trail of Andrew's movements that they could hopefully follow. Just 36 hours after he'd left home, apparently heading for school, they found their first clue.
What we pieced together was he'd crossed our street to the park, then he'd clearly gone round to the cash till at a garage on the corner there and basically emptied his savings of £200.
Keep this figure of £200 in mind. Why did Andrew need so much money? It's a key piece of evidence, which we'll come back to shortly.
He then circled back to our house, changed into casual clothes. I mean, he even put his uniform in the wash pile ready for washing and hung his jacket and tie up as he normally would. And then he walked down to Doncaster Station, which is on the East Coast Main Line, bought a one-way ticket to Kings Cross.
It appeared that Andrew had deliberately not gone to school. He'd waited until the house was empty, then gone back home. CCTV from the train station clearly proves that Andrew boarded the train as a passenger.
There were witnesses who said, yes, I was sat opposite him on the train. He was just playing on his portable PlayStation, not bothering anyone. So at about 11:30, 11:45 in the morning, he was walking out of Kings Cross Station. Where he went after that is a complete mystery.
It's 11:45 a.m, just before the lunchtime rush. What did London have in store for a boy with cash burning a hole in his pocket? It was quite possible that his school teachers could already be looking for him. After all, it was unusual for Andrew not to be in class. But they wouldn't be looking in London. In novels, films and books, as well as frequently in real life, bustling London is where people run to when they're looking to disappear. It's easy to get lost in the crowds and the big smoke, and for many people, it's the perfect place to leave your worries behind. But judging by the CCTV of Andrew sitting on the train, playing on his PlayStation, he didn't appear to be a young man troubled by worries. Kings Cross Station is a transport hub. From there, Andrew could board an underground tube, or you could get a connecting train to dozens of other towns or cities. He's even just a 5-minute walk away from boarding the Eurostar and journeying on to Europe. Did Andrew have plans? Was he going to a tourist spot, meeting a friend, going to a gig? Internet forums suggest he may have been interested in watching the North London Derby, a football match between Arsenal and Tottenham the following day. Or could he have been heading to Oxford Street to get his hands on a newly released games console, the PSP, a portable PlayStation? Wherever Andrew was heading, did the fact he'd only bought a single ticket indicate he wasn't planning to return home? Well, whatever the truth, there wasn't a shred of evidence to reveal where he was going, or for what reason. And no matter how hard Andrew's family looked, both then and now, they can't find any suggestion that Andrew had planned to leave home for good.
This is the absolutely baffling thing about Andrew. No one that we've ever spoken to, I mean, not in school, not his friends, teachers, us, no one had any idea that anything was bothering him, let alone what it might have been. there was just nothing amiss in any context, which makes him vanishing just all the more baffling, really. And we've never had the slightest evidence that anything was wrong, or that anything was sort of going on in his head that would make him take that journey.
While police tried to knit together the threads of Andrew's movements, Kevin looked closer to home, specifically at Andrew's behaviour. Kevin racked his brain. Had Andrew been depressed? Heartbroken? Was he being bullied? Was there something that could have made him intentionally run away? Kevin says that in the days and weeks before he vanished, Andrew was
going through a quieter patch, if you like, and was pretty much a home bird. So you'd mostly find him in his free time playing on the Xbox or reading. He read a lot, knocking snooker balls around on the table in his bedroom. Really nothing to write home about at all. He seemed perfectly okay, and we thought, well, he's okay, he's going through perhaps a less sociable patch, but give him a few months, he'll discover girls exist and we won't see him for dust or something.
London's transport network operate a vast number of CCTV cameras, over 15,000 on the Underground alone, and the streets around Kings Cross Station sprawl outward across the city in every direction. The police knew camera footage would be the key to working out where Andrew had gone. So what did it show? After alighting the train, Andrew is caught on camera walking along a platform towards the barriers. Another shot sees him leaving the main exit of the station. Clearly visible, wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with Slipknot, one of his favourite bands, with a small bag slung over his shoulder. There's no doubt it's Andrew. More cameras outside the station would no doubt capture where he goes next. Or so you'd think.
He most likely would have walked out of that station, cast around for the entrance to the tube, and hopped on whichever line it was to wherever he was going and gone that way. Unfortunately, CCTV from things like the buses and the tubes was actually never requested. So, we were unable to get any further clue as to where he'd gone.
That's right. CCTV cameras outside Kings Cross Station weren't checked for signs of Andrew until after they were wiped. Whether that was down to cost, time, manpower, or miscommunication seems a bit irrelevant now. But
that's a big thing, isn't it? Sorry, you probably forgotten I was here there, but that's a big thing, that they weren't checked until after they were wiped. Surely, as soon as they saw that CCTV of Andrew coming out of the train station, that should have been the next thing, shouldn't it? Checking all the CCTV around to see where he went after that. Did he get on a bus? Did somebody meet him there? Did he get a taxi? Did he just walk off up the street and then it should have been traced even further? It's just unbelievable that they didn't take any further action there.
Makes sense that a clue to where Andrew had gone was on one of the camera rolls or memory cards in one of London's many cameras. But that evidence hadn't been gathered, and without that footage, the trail ran cold. Andrew was simply one of millions of people somewhere in London. So the Gosdens took it upon themselves to try and figure out where.
I remember I was making whole lists of anywhere he'd ever been in London that he'd enjoyed. We were doing things like they picked up a time out and looked at any possible gigs or things like that. We basically ended up for a time alternating, Glenys and myself being in London, scampering around all these places with leaflets and posters, just asking, has anybody seen him, and so on. I mean, initially we had some possible sightings information. So spent quite a long time, obviously, following those up, doing things like, somebody thought they might have seen him on Waterloo Station at a certain time. So we'd be there staking it out, basically scanning the crowds, handing out leaflets, and so on and so forth.
How we'd react in a crisis is something we can never truly know until we find ourselves in one. Kevin remembers a continual panic which left him breathless, and a day-to-day cycle of checking and rechecking parts of the capital.
I mean, it was frenetic, but we tried to be logical about it and cover every possibility that we could think of, which I guess that's kind of the story of now almost 13 years, is we've just plugged away doing anything we can think of that might help to, at least establish that he's still alive. We just tried Covent Garden because we knew he liked the atmosphere there and the market stalls and stuff. Oxford Street was another place he quite enjoyed, so asking in shops and places along there. Lots and lots of museums and galleries.
The hope of finding Andrew at each London location they visited came to nothing. And by this point, the media was following Andrew's story closely. Certain newspapers began to suggest that Andrew might have been lured to London by someone. Maybe by a friend, just for the fun of an adventure in the big city.
Now, it's funny how missing person cases, like Andrew's case, captured everyone's interest. But, so many people that go missing. Maybe it's the particular circumstances of Andrew's case are unique, I don't know. But why, when there's so many young people go missing, do some cases, it's very interesting that, why do some cases attract more attention than others? Very interesting, I think.
Perhaps by someone not known to the family. Going missing for periods of time can sometimes be due to the actions of someone else, and it was suggested that maybe Andrew had been groomed. The only problem with that theory was that there was no evidence that Andrew had ever discussed his plan that day with anyone.
We established that he'd not been in communication with anybody through the landline.
Yeah, so very strange, as if he had been groomed. Where's the communication? Where's the trail, the digital trail? Where's the phone calls? Where's the messages? Where's the online trail? If he had been groomed, it's a complete mystery, isn't it? It does seem logical. It may have been somebody that Andrew knew. It does seem logical, but something being logical and actually having evidence for it are two different things, aren't they?
He didn't have a mobile phone. There were no traces of any computer activity, and ours obviously, and at school, and even in the public library where he sometimes went. No traces were ever found of him ever communicating with anybody. Facebook barely existed. It only just come into being. Twitter didn't exist. Went through his school planner. He didn't keep a diary as such. We checked that his passport was still here. Every possible thing you can think of, we were rummaging through. And we just couldn't, and never have, found one shred of evidence to suggest that he had a particular event or destination in mind, that had been communicating with anybody. Just nothing. And it genuinely seems like whatever was going on in his head, that was the only place that it was going on, was in his head. So, what it was that he decided to go do, we are as baffled about now, well over a decade later, as we were at the time.
Kevin has contemplated every scenario imaginable, but even now he struggles to accept any of them. How well we know our children is a question every parent asks themselves. And Kevin has had to wrestle with the possibility that Andrew might not have been groomed or lured to London, and that he might not have had an accident or been the victim of a violent crime. But instead, that Andrew had chosen to run away and stay gone. Did he mean to leave forever? Was he ever homeless? Did he not want to be found? A clue that Kevin keeps coming back to is the money that Andrew withdrew from the cash machine. Remember that £200 that Andrew had on him? A sum that wouldn't see him past a night or two away from home. Surely, if Andrew was planning to run away for good, he'd take everything he could.
Yes, he did use it to buy the train ticket. But, also, we found out afterwards that he'd left. He had some cash in his bedroom, birthdays, pocket money, left over from bus fares or whatever. And he could easily have taken quite a bit more with him, just by picking it up and putting it in his pocket. I forget how much, but there was certainly, he had some notes and coins.
Would you forget how much? Anyway, but I think he's right. Surely if you were planning on going away and being away for a little while, or running away, you would take every penny that you had. I'm sure they went into his room and counted up exactly what he left there. I'm not sure that you would forget that amount of money, that amount, would you? Anyway, that's by the by. But yeah, why didn't he take it all?
In his money box upstairs, we always had a box full of emergency money and bus fare money. There was quite a few pounds in that. He could easily, if he'd been planning to do something longer term, it would seem very strange not to have picked that up. Going through his wardrobe, he didn't take a jacket or a jumper or anything. He just wandered off in skinny jeans and a t-shirt, which in the middle of September, it's going to get a bit chilly, so it's not really likely, unless, do you see what I mean? He picked up his portable PlayStation, didn't take the charger, and how long's that going to last on one charge? Because I would have said that Andrew pretty much liked his home comforts, so the idea of him sleeping rough doesn't seem to really fit with his character.
Yeah, you don't get the feeling that he's gone off to sleep rough somewhere. He's either gone off to meet somebody, or he's gone off and he's not planning, didn't take his charge because he's thinking he wasn't going to need it because he was going to do something to himself.
In recent years, the case has caught the attention of people around the world, drawn by the unexplained, unfathomable disappearance. Theories are chewed over on dedicated online forums. There are thousands of posts on a Reddit page discussing Andrew's case, and fresh suggestions are never slow to be put forward. Amongst them...
Actually, it's funny you should say that, because while we were listening to this, I had a look on Reddit, and we're going to look at some things on Reddit in a minute.
Well-intentioned members of the public debate whether Andrew was headed to a concert. A list of the live events nationwide has been retrieved from the newspaper archives, including a number of indie or rock concerts, the type of music Andrew liked, in the capital that evening. Could it be that he went to London with a concert in mind, and that something or someone happened to him before or after? Another member of the public has sifted through thousands of photographs taken in London on that day to find people in the background who could be Andrew.
Wow, that's interesting. Just shows you, sometimes social media detectives, if the police haven't got the time or the resources or can't be asked going through all the photos and everything, if there's somebody out there who will, that's good. And yeah, this is talked about a lot. This is one of the most famous missing person cases, talked about all over the world, not just in the UK.
And there are 3 or 4 with a striking likeness. Same build, same hair. Grooming, running away for good, simply having a day out that ends tragically. All the theories circulate. There's a belief online that someone knows what happened to Andrew. And if the Reddit community are frustrated, imagine how the Gosdens feel. It's the type of thing Kevin believed he'd only ever see on the news.
Well, exactly. I would say 100% somebody knows what's happened to Andrew, unless he's actually taken his own life, which Liam Smith did, which we're going to look at in a moment. 100% somebody knows. I mean, it may be that he went there for the day and then something did happen to him while he was there. But I still think it's strange he didn't buy a return ticket. He wasn't planning on going back that day, was he?
Happening to other people. And he remembers the irony of a conversation with Andrew only weeks before he disappeared, when another child seemingly vanished. That child was Madeleine McCann, who was reported missing by her parents while on holiday in Portugal.
Oh my God.
I remember sitting on the sofa in our front room, seeing the news of Madeleine McCann's case unfolding. And I remember going, oh, it must be every parent's worst nightmare. And Andrew was like, yeah, that's awful. And like a few weeks later, he disappears off the face of the earth, which I still find a little strange, because I think, you did, at some level, you grasped.
That's interesting, isn't it? The thing is, these things can give people ideas. You just don't know what's going through people's heads. And when he heard about Madeleine McCann, maybe it gave him an idea or gave somebody else an idea.
That a parent losing their child was an awful thing.
Almost 14 years have passed, and both cases have received a lot of attention. Recently, Madeleine McCann's case featured in a Netflix series. New breakthroughs came through, and there was a hope that, at the very least, answers could follow. But there's no such hope for Kevin.
When your kids are little and you're in the shopping centre or on the beach or at the park or something, and you lose sight of them for a minute, and you get that heart in your mouth, gut-wrenching, oh my gosh, where are they, sensation. And of course, normally you just, you cast around a bit and you go, oh, they've wandered over there, they're fine. But it's that sensation just prolonged for initially hours, days, weeks, months and years, where you're just absolutely panicking, about making sure that your kid's safe. The not knowing, the getting up every day forever and ever and ever, wondering about his existence still even, is just, it's an extended torture.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what we're always saying, isn't it? Even if you find out that your child is dead, it's terrible, but it's something you can start to, I don't know, deal with. How does he start to deal with something that doesn't even know it's happened? And then you'd be thinking, are they suffering at the moment? Are they being hurt? If he is still alive, where is he being held somewhere against his will? 2 men, it's just so awful. Missing is awful.
If Andrew is alive, he will be 27 now. He may look different, though the distinct crease on his ear won't have gone away. Kevin clings onto the hope that one day information will come to light that will crack the case, or someone who knows something will speak up to reveal the truth. And the more the case is talked about, the more chance that someone will come forward. This is why Kevin believes these stories are so important and must continue to be told, because
this could happen to anybody. Like us, you might think everything might seem perfectly comfortable and normal. Nobody's upset. There's nothing going on that seems amiss. And yet, out of the blue, this happens. So I tend to really want to encourage people to talk about it really with their kids in the way that you might cover from crossing the road safely to how you deal with things if you're offered drugs, or how you make sure you're safe if you go out to a gig, or whatever it is. I mean, it never, ever crossed our minds to talk about going missing.
in many cases, it takes just one piece of information to lead police or family to the answers they crave. If you know what happened to Andrew, if you'd arranged to meet him in London, or you remember seeing someone like him on the 14th of September 2007, your information could be vital. Even if you've never been to London, had never heard of Andrew Gosden before listening to this episode, you could still help.
We've put the details of this case on our website, themissingpodcast.org.
So yeah, definitely you can help if, as she says, you know anything. Now, I'm just as we were listening to that, I did go onto Reddit just to have a look and see what they're saying on Reddit, and look at it. There's an extra bit of footage that I hadn't seen before, actually. So let's have a look. You watch the other people that are walking next to him. They're not looking around like that. I feel that Andrew is looking for somebody there. And when I think about it now, I think I have seen this years ago. I don't know if I can play the sound to this, because that might be, I don't know what program it is. Let's have a little listen.
Just chatting and cracking jokes in the normal way.
The police weren't anything, with no leads to go on.
Oh, it sounds like it's Good Morning Britain or something like that. Sorry, I'm not going to play the music, the sound. But we
The
can
police-
TV. Oh, this person here says, I don't think he was looking for someone, he was just looking for the exit. Maybe. Oh, so anyway. Now, what I want to look at now, so as that lady said, if you do know anything, contact the missing persons or the police or whatever to try and put this family out of their misery. But one thing that I did want to look at, because this does remind me of the case of Liam Smith. Now, Liam Smith was a young lad, a little bit older than Andrew, 16, and he went missing from, let's have a look, in Scotland. Now, this was a Facebook post made at the time by the Police Scotland North East. CCTV images of Liam Smith, 16, who has been reported missing from the Queen's Road area of Aberdeen, have been released as part of enquiries to trace him. The images were captured at McDonald's on Union Street at 12:28 p.m. on Saturday, 17th of November. It is understood that Liam purchased food at the restaurant before making his way on foot to Union Square, and then he boarded a 202 bus to the D-side area at around 1:30. Inspector Jackie Knight said Liam was reported missing to police on Sunday morning, but he was last seen during the afternoon of Saturday, 17th of November. Given the passage of time, his family is naturally becoming increasingly concerned for his welfare. We're asking that if anyone saw him on board the 202 bus on Saturday, they contact us. We want to make sure he is safe and well as soon as possible. Liam is described as white, 6'4" tall, very tall boy with a very distinctive walk, short brown hair. When he was last seen, he was wearing a dark top, blue jeans and a Nike Air Max trainers, and also carrying a camouflage North Face backpack. So this was at the time. Now Liam, I feel like I do have like a bit of a personal interest in this, because Liam, a girl that worked with me at the time as my receptionist, she went to a wedding shortly before Liam disappeared, and Liam was at this wedding, and she said he was just a normal sort of teenage boy, like they all are. You just don't know what's going on in their heads, because Liam, he went missing for quite a long time. There was a lot of conspiracy theory, what we call conspiracy theory. There was a lot of online speculation what happened to Liam. It was like a sort of Jay Slater type scenario. Everybody was very intrigued to know what had happened to him. Where had this boy disappeared to? Had he been catfished? Why did he, seem to come from a nice household? It was a mystery. When I say a conspiracy theory, I mean a mystery. And very sadly, eventually Liam's body was found. And they think it was a case of self-deletion. But let's just have a look at that. So this is Liam, I think, at that wedding that my friend was at, just before he disappeared. It's so sad, handsome boy, there he is in his kilt and everything, because he's from Aberdeen in Scotland. Just not long before. You just don't know what's going on in these bloody teenagers' minds, do you? And this is what just makes me wonder. To me, it was a very similar case to Andrew. Did Andrew go to do something to himself? So this was, when did this happen? It's a couple of years ago now. So this was March 2019 when this was published. And it says the 16-year-old vanished last November. So from the November to the March, he was missing. So it's quite a long time. And police stood guard at the front of a dirt track leading to a wide expanse of woods today. They're still to establish the identity of the person who's been found at this spot. But residents who live near to Craig of Afrusk near Bankery revealed that the wooded area has been very boggy for weeks and is only just becoming passable, which is possibly accounting for the tragic discovery. One resident told the Scottish Sun on Sunday, "I walk there all the time. There are so many people with dogs go up there as well. But it seems like it was too boggy to pass for a while, and that's why Liam wasn't found." And I think what Liam did was he took his own life, HUNG'd himself from a tree, I think. That's what, we were told, but that video's not working. Anyway. So this is the area. So the thing is, it seems like he got himself a McDonald's. He got on the bus, went to this area that I presume he knew, and very unfortunately then decided to delete himself for whatever reason that he decided to do this. So tragic for his family. I know that his mum, I know that his mum had said that he hadn't been himself lately. So he probably had some mental health issues, depression. They've been very private about it. There hasn't been I've not, to be honest, I've not gone in looking to see for any gory details or anything, but just sad enough to know. So when Liam disappeared and all those weeks he was missing, mums, I think you must get to a point where you almost hope he has been catfished, or he has been kidnapped or whatever, because at least he'd still be alive. Anyway, to know we lived so near and couldn't do anything. I didn't sleep at all last night. This is one of the residents. We're sad for the parents. It's used well by walkers, but there are bits that are boggy. You just keep wondering to yourself, did we see him? It's horrible. Another added, I saw the police activity and thought something was up. So many people walk dogs up there. I find it hard to believe it wasn't made. The find wasn't made earlier. So another added, we don't know where the body was found. You can only get so far in open woodland. And after that, there's very dense woodland to the top of the hill. If he was found there, it's understandable members of the public wouldn't have made the discovery before now. So messages of support for Liam's family have flooded social media after the latest news. So it was, you know, a sort of a Jay Slater case of its day, like everybody was, you know, everybody was talking about it on social media. Many YouTubers made videos about it. Very sad. Very, very sad. So, you know, he'd been hunted for with helicopters, specialist dive teams, sniffer dogs, and more than 140 reports of sighting were probed. Scotland manager Ali McLeish recorded a video message urging football mad Liam to get in touch. It's so sad. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to cry. Just so sad. And all that time he's got on he's bought himself a McDonald's and he's got on a bus and gone, and he just not wanted to carry on anymore. So last month, police scaled back their search and Liam's family admitted they had to be realistic about the challenges of finding him. A police spokesman said formal identification has yet to take place, but the family of 16-year-old Liam Smith has been notified. Inquiries are ongoing and they're not believed to be any suspicious circumstances. So, of course, they'll have found his possessions there. So this was what the wilderness that they were looking for him. God. God. Oh my God. Well, no wonder he wasn't found for so long. Ay, bless him. So the thing is, Liam's been found. That's the only, you know,
This is the horrifying moment a dad
was not good news. Sorry, let me turn this off. It wasn't good news for him to be found deceased, of course, but at least it was good news that he was found, you know, and his family could put him to rest. They don't have to worry about where he is and what's happening to him. Whereas Andrew Gosden's family, of course, they're still going through, you know, hell. So, So Liam's family had said, at this most difficult time of all, we would ask for privacy as we try to come to terms with our enormous loss. Yeah. So I know it's difficult, and believe me, I know, because I've had a teenager, you know, trying to ask them if they're okay, what's going through the mind, and you know, because you just don't know. You know, I think most teenagers have difficulties with depression. What's the meaning? Now, I'm just going to interject there because I am here. Even this is a video that I recorded earlier today, but obviously I'm here because I've been chatting with you all. So, and I'm going to play the end of that video in a moment. But what I just wanted to show you, because then after I'd finished the video, I was looking online, because of course today, the reason I'm doing this video is because it is 17 years today. It's the anniversary, if that's the right word. It always seems like a strange word, doesn't it? For the day that Andrew just walked out of his house, you know, as if he was going to school, and then he went in his uniform first of all. So makes you wonder, was he planning on going to school initially? And then for some reason he just thought, oh, sod this, I'm not going to school, I'm going to London. No, maybe it really was as spontaneous as that, because he did leave the house in his uniform. He then went and took the money out, though maybe that was just to, you know, so that to show his mum and dad that he'd left to go to school. And then maybe he waited for his mum and dad to go out to work or wherever they went in the daytime, went back. Oh, he went and took the £200 out. Then he went back to the house, changed into his casual wear. And as his dad says, he, see you later, Amethyst. Let me just put his picture back up rather than looking at the... So, you know, as his dad said, he went back to the house. He put the blazer over the chair. He put his uniform in the washing machine, changed into casual wear, and off he went to the train station. So was he planning on doing that, or did he literally just wake up that morning and think, oh, sod this, you know, I'm going to London for whatever reason? He might have only been planning to go for a couple of hours, you know, and be back later on, you know. And then it does make me think, because someone was going for dinner that night at Andrew's house. Maybe it was someone that Andrew didn't like. Maybe he didn't want to see that person. You do feel as if there was something going on at home because of him stopping going to church, stopping going to the Scouts. You know, was he going through something? He'd started walking, you know, as we said earlier, he'd started walking to school. An hour and something, a couple of times he'd walk back from school rather than get the bus. Maybe he was being bullied, you know, at school, and maybe just his parents didn't know about it. You know, because I tell you what, I was bullied at school. My parents didn't know anything about it. One of my bullies used to come and call for me in the morning and walk me to school just so that they could be horrible to me. I never told my parents. You don't tell your parents these things. So did he go like Liam's? It just reminds me a bit of Liam Smith's case, you know, when Liam actually got a bus and went off to a different place to do what he did, you know, away from home instead of doing it at home. Did Andrew do that? You know, 14-year-old boys do things to themselves. So it just seemed funny that he didn't buy a return ticket, even though the ticket officer, the ticket agent, actually said to him, look, why don't you buy a return ticket? It's only 50p more. And he said no, he didn't want a return ticket. So it's a bit odd, isn't it? Because surely if he was intending on returning, which it felt like he was, because he hadn't taken his charger with him, he hadn't taken a jacket with him or loads of clothes, you know, as if he was properly leaving home. So why didn't he buy a return ticket? So this is what makes Andrew's case so mysterious, isn't it? So much we don't know. The woman on the train that was sat near him, saw him, said he was calm, relaxed, he was playing his game. He didn't look agitated when he got off the train. I still think he did look a bit like he was looking for someone. He had friends he had family in London. He'd been to London many times. So maybe he did have friends in London that he was meeting. and maybe he didn't, and maybe something befell him because of where it was, Kings Cross, all the predators waiting for young lads getting off the train, who knows? And of course, they have arrested those two people, but they've been cleared from the inquiry now. Maybe there just wasn't enough evidence. So yeah, it's no wonder there's so much interest around it, because it is a complete mystery, isn't it? And there's so many things that don't add up. But I was a bit intrigued by the way the police were so fixated on the family or on his father in the beginning. His father was saying that, they definitely, that's why I think they didn't check the CCTV and everything. It was almost as if they decided it was something to do with his father, and that was all they could see in the initial stages anyway. Maybe they don't feel like that now. So anyway, it's a 17-year anniversary, if you like. So his parents have been speaking, haven't they? And I just wanted to read you this article before I finish with that. Let me just take that off. Before I finish with that video that I prepared earlier, I just want to read you this article, because I thought it was interesting. So it's in the Doncaster Free Press, and his parents gave an interview. So, Andrew Gosden is an unending nightmare, say the parents, as the missing Doncaster teen's room is decorated. So apparently they're decorating his room. Finally, is this him? Don't know if this is about Andrew or something else.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Darren Burke, one of your live team and digital reporters for the Doncaster Free Press, bringing you some of the main headlines in Doncaster this Friday. Starting today with the news.
Oh no, that's just all different headlines. So the parents of missing Doncaster teenager Andrew Gosden have described his disappearance as an unending nightmare on the 17th anniversary of his disappearance, revealing how they are redecorating his bedroom but will never be able to move on. The 14-year-old was last seen on September the 14th, 2017, and despite huge national and international manhunts, he has never been found. His father Kevin and mother Glenys have never given up on finding Andrew, who was last seen at Kings Cross Station in London after leaving the family's home in Balby. In an emotional blog post to mark the anniversary, Kevin wrote, "It's 17 years since Andrew went missing. Look, they're doing up his room. That must be difficult. When do you get to the point where because I know a lot of people whose children either die or go missing, they just keep their rooms the same. When does it come to the point where you actually change it?" So for various reasons, my wife Glenys and I are refurbishing half of our Victorian mid-terrace house. A well-meaning friend said to us recently that it must be good to feel that we can move on by including Andrew's old room in this process. We have removed picture rails, rewired, replaced damaged floorboards, even removed the lead piping for gas lighting that was under the floor. The old furniture is gone, new cupboards are installed, the walls plaster skimmed and coving added. The paint Andrew chose as a boy, with blue, has been stripped off. The room has been stripped right back and is being slowly restored. As for moving on, we find ourselves intending to choose a new shade of blue for the walls and soft furnishings, and to include some pictures and belongings of Andrew's in the final stages. A missing loved one is not something that can be moved on from. We simply find ourselves another year on, with no clue where or why he went off that day, let alone where he could be now, or even if he is alive. It feels as if your life has been stripped back. Everything you expected to happen never did, or if it did, not in the way you expected. And now another year farther away from a possible clue. This hurts in the most unimaginably painful way all the time, every single day. And in some ways, that hurt becomes worse as more time passes. It feels we're being trapped in an unending nightmare rather than moving on, let alone being restored and improved. This doubtless sounds bleak to any reader, and is why, as usual, I wish to encourage any reader to support the charity Missing People. And that's the website we looked at. So this, for replay crew or anyone who's coming late, go back to the beginning, watch the whole thing again, and you'll see we talked about the Missing People charity, who has still got Andrew as their page one, really, more or less, on their website. One of the most important ways to help is to share their appeals for missing loved ones via social media. It costs nothing, yet may save a family or individual from a huge amount of pain. Similarly, make family and friends aware of the helpline 116 000 so that they could seek support with any aspect related to missing, even if it is to talk through the feelings related to thinking of going missing. This feeling of our lives being stripped down year in, year out can seem unbearable and never ending, but there's an amazing source of support available, and I can promise you that it is free, confidential, and you should have no doubts as to the value of making that call or contacting them online or via text. For us, the pain may never end, but it does help to have someone at your back supporting you. So remember this breakthrough. In 2021, 2 men were arrested in connection with his disappearance, and they were detained on suspicion of kidnap and human trafficking. And at the time of their arrests in London, police said electronics taken from the pair, aged 39 and 46, could take 6 to 12 months to analyse. Now, of course, we're not privy to the reasons why these men were arrested in the first place. So the older man was also arrested on suspicion of possessing indecent images of children, but they were both later released, and the case still remains open. So it makes you wonder, were they released because they just don't have enough evidence at the moment? Or are those men actually nothing to do with this case? Or is it that they are, or likely they are, but they just can't, the police, they maybe just can't get a case together, because they have to get a case together, present it to the the Crown Prosecution Service, and maybe they just haven't managed to get enough evidence yet. But one thing that I just wanted to point out to you, so there's one comment on this article. So this is an article from today, from what I can gather, because it's an article about the anniversary. There's one comment, and I read the comment. Very surprising comment. So Wendy J, 6 hours ago, said plenty of people have vanished with no trace. A pregnant woman involved in a cult and a separate young girl in my town of Scunthorpe. Madeleine McCann and Ben Needham, for examples. It happens, but in the cases back home, the families don't keep whinging at every opportunity. He's obviously gone for a reason, and they clearly know what the reason was. Don't you think that's an odd comment to put on? Is it just some, some sort of Karen, if you like, or some nasty person just saying that nasty thing? Or why is Wendy J saying that? It's unusual, isn't it, to say horrible things? Well, having said that, we're seeing it with the Jay Slater case, loads of people saying horrible things to the parents and that. So maybe, but so anyway, it's only one comment, but it just surprised me. He's obviously gone for a reason, and they clearly know what the reason was. So I don't know. What do you think? Let me. Oh gosh, I missed quite a lot of the chat there. Sorry. Hi, Kelly. Are you okay, Kelly? I hope you're good. So I'm just gonna. He wasn't going to a Slipknot concert, Chumbo. He wasn't. They don't know where he was going or what he was doing. That's just one of the theories. Didn't he have he liked Slipknot? I think he might have had a Slipknot t-shirt on, but they've got no evidence that he was going to a Slipknot concert whatsoever. Just that there was a concert on. There was lots of things that he might have been in London for, but they're just speculation. He didn't have a ticket. He didn't have, there's nothing, there's no, he wasn't, it's not been confirmed that he was going to a Slipknot concert. It's just one of the theories out there. Charlie, yes, some people are bullied and don't tell it. I think especially school kids. Quite often they don't tell their parents. Quite often what happens is, children actually go as far as to take their own lives, and their parents didn't even know anything, did they, that was going on. So, bullying is a very, the thing is, children of that age, at 14, you don't tell your parents things, do you? You just don't. It's not many children of that age that would tell their parents everything. And this other case that I'm preparing at the moment, that hopefully I'll finish that video tomorrow. That's another exact same case, similar case in the, something happening to a young girl, and she didn't feel that she could tell anyone about it. A bit like Madeline Soto. It's amazing. Kids don't like to talk about things with their parents, that for many, many reasons. And it's not a reflection on the parents. It's just the way it is. How many things do you think when you were 14 you didn't tell your parents? I know I didn't tell my parents loads of things. I didn't tell them. That's how it is. And then I remember sort of that happening to me, like with my son, and being like feeling really hurt that he hadn't told me things. But you just have to accept it. It's just part of it, isn't it? It's just part of being 14, so anyway. So there's something, I'm sorry to hear that, Katrina. There's something, I think the police maybe know a bit more, and maybe there is something in the family there, because, to me, as soon as, because what it's like with the church, the parents are really into the church and everything, and Andrew was going to the church and then he stopped going. You think, well, yeah, was something happening at the church, or, who knows, these church going people sometimes are not as white as they appear to be. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not, I don't know, but anything is possible. This is the thing, and yeah, he was a 14-year-old who looked like a 12-year-old. I mean, he doesn't look 14, does he? And the problem with that is those predators at Kings Cross, he's like perfect, isn't he? They're like young boys. So he would have been was he accosted by somebody there? Who do we know? How do we know what? How do we know? So was he does look so much younger, doesn't he? But anyway, let's hope that there's a bit of a surge in attention for him, because it's a year's anniversary. And yeah, you're right, Sephi, it should perhaps be the last child who went missing. Most children, children do go missing quite often, and mostly they're found safe and sound, aren't they? You know, mostly they are. So, but unfortunately not always. And then you get some cases like this where, you know, years go on and after 17 years, is it ever likely to be found out what happened to him? Or maybe the police have got a good idea of what happened to him. But again, it all comes down to this evidence thing, isn't it? You've got to really get your evidence together if you want to make a successful prosecution. And maybe there's just something missing in the case, you know, that they just haven't got. But anyway, hopefully, you know, one day we'll find out, and his family will find out what happened to him. And maybe he is living a life somewhere, you know, that the thing that we talked about, where somebody was in a chat room with somebody, wasn't they, called themselves Andy Roo, and said they'd left home when they were 14, and his nickname was Roo, and there is thoughts that that might have been him. You know, maybe he's got a different identity by now, calls himself a different name than Andrew Gosden. You know, we can hope that maybe he is alive and well somewhere. But why doesn't he? If he is alive and well somewhere, he will have seen all the attention. You know, he'd be looking for it, wouldn't he? I mean, if you decided to go off, make a new life, sure, as you got older, you'd start Googling yourself, wouldn't you? Oh, you know, are they still looking for me? You know, and blah, de, blah, de, blah. And surely, eventually, you know, he'd step forward and just say, oh, look, I am Andrew. And it has happened. And there's no he's still quite young. So even though it's been 17 years, so it's been 17 years and he was 14. So he's only 31 if he is alive somewhere. So, you know, there's still a chance, I suppose, that he might come forward, bless him. Thing is, you look at that and you imagine him like that, but of course he doesn't look anything like that now because he's 17 years on. So yeah, I showed it earlier, Chumber. I showed all the advanced things. So if you have a little flip back, you'll see it. So that's it. So thank you. Do you know what? It's been so nice, this. It's been such a lovely live after the horrible one the other day where I was thinking I'm never going to do another live again. It's been back to normal, nice, everybody respecting each other's opinion. And it's been lovely. And, you know, lovely is maybe not the right word when you're talking about missing child, but you know what I mean. It's nice to talk these things out together, and we get ideas, don't we? And yeah. So I'm going to just finish off this video, and that goes into the end of the video. So I say my goodbyes there, but please don't forget to hit the like button. And I want to say good night to the replay crew as well, and good night to anyone who's watching at home that hasn't joined in the chat, because I know the chat's not for everyone. I'm just glad the chat's back to normal now. Well, it has been tonight anyway. I'm sure there'll be future disagreements in chat, but not tonight. And yeah, good night, and thanks for being here with me. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. But I'm going to say goodbye on this video that I prepared earlier. Why am I here? You know, I remember going through all that. I'm still going through it, but of course, when you're a teenager, everything's amplified, isn't it? It's easy to get depressed. You know, with puberty, and that's a nightmare. So yeah, it's just a question of trying to get your teenager to talk if you can. I mean, I know it's hard. Sometimes they just don't want to talk, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, it sounds to me that Liam's family knew that he wasn't quite himself, but how do you, you know, what can you do if they won't talk to you? Not much. But anyway, so I just wanted to talk about Liam at the end there. Fly free, Liam. I hope you're at peace now. I hope whatever it was you know, that drove you to do that. I hope it's gone now and that you're sort of happy, calm, at peace. But as far as Andrew's concerned, of course, there's no resolution. We don't know what's happened to Andrew. His family are still wondering, where is he? Where did he go that day? Why did he go? Did he meet anyone? Has he gone and done something to himself? Or has he did some foul play befall him that day? You know, so many unanswered questions, which, as I said, I don't know how these families sort of cope with it. I really don't. So I wanted to do this video because it's been exactly 17 years since Andrew Gosden went missing. And you never know, somebody's if there's more, you know, that maybe somebody's memory will be jogged, or somebody who does know what happened to Andrew will come forward, or maybe even Andrew himself will come forward and put his family's worries at rest, put his family's mind at rest. And let's just hope so. There's still a chance, you know. Doesn't feel like it's always possible that Andrew still is alive and well. Okay, so that's it for this video. As I finish off, I'm going to just play some music and put Andrew's photos on again, and prayers especially for Liam as well, and his family, and hope they're coping all right, and or as well as can be expected. And I'll see you really soon in the very next video, and until then, as always, may your God go with you.